Donald Trump has clashed with Volodymyr Zelensky in a furious exchange at the White House, with the U.S. president telling his Ukrainian counterpart to make a deal with Russia, or we are out. The pair interrupted each other repeatedly during what was supposed to be a prelude to the two leaders signing a minerals deal. After relations first became strained over Trump's handling of Ukraine peace talks with Russia, the minerals agreement was supposed to be a stepping stone towards further security ties between the countries. But Zelensky ended up leaving before the deal could be signed after the public Oval Office meeting came to a head. At one point, Trump told Zelensky he was not thankful enough for U.S. military and political support, and that he was gambling with World War III. Zelensky had earlier argued there should be no compromises with Russian President Vladimir Putin, but Trump said Kyiv would have to make concessions to reach a peace deal with Russia. The meeting to discuss the deal, which involved access to Ukrainian oil, gas, and rare minerals, came after America's new president had appeared to blame Zelensky for the war and chided him for not starting peace talks with Russia earlier. His tone had softened in recent days, with Trump saying he had a lot of respect for the Ukrainian leader. But Friday's conversation soured after the U.S. Vice President JD Vance, who was sat alongside other politicians in the room, told Zelensky that the war had to be ended through diplomacy. Zelensky responded by asking, what kind of diplomacy, referencing a previous ceasefire deal in 2019, agreed 3 years before Russia's full-scale invasion. The vice president then accused him of being disrespectful and litigating the situation in front of the media. From there, the discussion escalated quickly as Trump and Vance accused Ukraine's president of being ungrateful for 3 years of U.S. support during the war with Russia, with Trump saying he was in no position to tell the U.S. how it should feel. Not long after the meeting, and well ahead of the pre-planned schedule, Zelensky was seen leaving the White House in his official vehicle. Trump took to Truth Social, the social media platform he owns, to say Zelensky disrespected the U.S. in its cherished Oval Office. I have determined that President Zelensky is not ready for peace if America is involved because he feels our involvement gives him a big advantage in negotiations. The U.S. president continued, I don't want advantage, I want peace. Zelensky also posted on social media after the meeting, sending a message on X thanking the president and the U.S. 4 times. The meeting has prompted reaction from across the globe. Russia said Trump and Vance had acted with restraint against Zelensky. A foreign ministry spokeswoman said it was a miracle the pair hadn't hit the democratically elected leader of Ukraine. Meanwhile, European allies have public support for Zelensky. French President Emmanuel Macron, who had his own meeting with Trump this week, said Russia was the aggressor and it was the Ukrainian people being attacked. And Donald Tusk, Poland's president, told Ukraine, you are not alone. In the U.S., Democrats in Congress accused Trump and Vance of doing the Russian President Vladimir Putin's dirty work for him, while some Republican lawmakers supported Trump after the confrontation. The meeting between Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House, which was intended to solidify a minerals deal and strengthen bilateral ties, quickly devolved into a heated exchange, exposing deep fissures in the U.S.-Ukraine relationship. The confrontation, which played out in front of the media, highlighted the divergent approaches of the two leaders toward the ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia. Trump's insistence on Ukraine making concessions to Russia for peace, coupled with Zelensky's refusal to compromise with Russian President Vladimir Putin, underscored the complexities of the geopolitical landscape. The minerals deal and strained relations. The meeting was initially framed as an opportunity to sign a minerals agreement that would grant the U.S. access to Ukrainian oil, gas, and rare minerals. This deal was seen as a potential stepping stone toward deeper security cooperation between the two nations. However, the discussions quickly shifted away from the minerals deal as tensions over Ukraine's handling of peace talks with Russia came to the forefront. Trump, who has previously expressed frustration with Ukraine's approach to the conflict, accused Zelensky of not being sufficiently grateful for military and political support provided by the United States. He warned Zelensky that he was gambling with World War III by refusing to make concessions to Russia. Trump's blunt rhetoric reflected his long-standing belief that Ukraine should negotiate a peace deal with Russia, even if it means making significant compromises. Zelensky, on the other hand, maintained that there should be no compromises with Putin, emphasizing Ukraine's sovereignty and the need to resist Russian aggression. This stance put him at odds with Trump, who has repeatedly expressed admiration for Putin and has been critical of U.S. involvement in the conflict. The role of JD Vance. The situation escalated when U.S. Vice President JD Vance, who was present at the meeting, intervened to suggest that the war must be resolved through diplomacy. Vance's comments, which echoed Trump's position, further inflamed tensions. Zelensky responded by questioning the nature of the proposed diplomacy, referencing a failed ceasefire agreement from 2019 that preceded Russia's full-scale invasion. This retort prompted Vance to accuse Zelensky of being disrespectful and litigating the situation in front of the media. The exchange between Vance and Zelensky marked a turning point in the meeting, as Trump and Vance jointly criticized the Ukrainian president for what they perceived as ingratitude toward the United States. Trump asserted that Zelensky was in no position to dictate how the U.S. should feel about his involvement in the conflict, further straining the already tense atmosphere. Zelensky's departure and aftermath. The meeting concluded abruptly, with Zelensky leaving the White House well ahead of the pre-planned schedule. His departure signaled the breakdown of negotiations and underscored the deep divisions between the two leaders. Trump later took to Truth Social, his social media platform, to accuse Zelensky of disrespecting the United States in the Oval Office. He claimed that Zelensky was not ready for peace if it involved American involvement, suggesting that the Ukrainian leader viewed U.S. support as a bargaining chip in negotiations with Russia. Zelensky, for his part, posted a message on X, formerly Twitter, thanking Trump and the United States 4 times, a gesture that appeared to be an attempt to de-escalate tensions. However, the damage had already been done, and the meeting's fallout reverberated across the globe. Global reactions. The confrontation drew swift reactions from international leaders and policymakers. Russia, unsurprisingly, praised Trump and Vance for their restraint, with a foreign ministry spokeswoman quipping that it was a miracle the two had not physically attacked Zelensky. This statement, while hyperbolic, reflected Moscow's satisfaction with the discord between the U.S. and Ukraine. European allies, meanwhile, rallied behind Zelensky. French President Emmanuel Macron, who had recently met with Trump, reiterated that Russia was the aggressor in the conflict and emphasized the need to support the Ukrainian people. Polish President Donald Tusk also expressed solidarity with Ukraine, assuring Zelensky that you are not alone. In the United States, the meeting sparked a partisan divide. Democrats in Congress accused Trump and Vance of doing Putin's dirty work by pressuring Ukraine to make concessions to Russia. Some Republican lawmakers, however, supported Trump's stance, arguing that the U.S. should prioritize its own interests and avoid being drawn into prolonged conflicts. Implications for U.S.-Ukraine relations. The clash between Trump and Zelensky has significant implications for the future of U.S.-Ukraine relations. Trump's transactional approach to foreign policy, which prioritizes deals and concessions over strategic alliances, has created uncertainty about the United States' commitment to Ukraine. Zelensky's refusal to bend to Trump's demands, while consistent with his government's stance on sovereignty, risks alienating a key ally at a critical juncture in the conflict. The breakdown of the minerals deal also raises questions about the economic and security ties between the two nations. Without U.S. support, Ukraine may struggle to counter Russian aggression and rebuild its economy. At the same time, Trump's insistence on peace at any cost could embolden Putin and undermine efforts to hold Russia accountable for its actions. Conclusion. The fiery exchange between Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House underscores the challenges of navigating the complex geopolitical landscape of Eastern Europe. While Trump's push for a peace deal with Russia reflects his desire to avoid further U.S. involvement in the conflict, Zelensky's refusal to compromise highlights the high stakes for Ukraine's sovereignty and security. The fallout from the meeting has exposed deep divisions within the international community and raised questions about the future of U.S.-Ukraine relations. As the conflict continues, the ability of both leaders to find common ground will be crucial in determining the path forward. The confrontation between Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House is emblematic of the broader geopolitical tensions surrounding the Ukraine-Russia conflict and the role of the United States in mediating or exacerbating the crisis. To fully understand the implications of this meeting, it is necessary to delve deeper into the historical context, the strategic interests at play, and the potential consequences for global stability. Historical context. U.S.-Ukraine relations and the Russia factor. U.S.-Ukraine relations have been complex and multifaceted, particularly since Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014 and the subsequent war in the Donbass region. The United States has been a key supporter of Ukraine, providing military aid, economic assistance, and diplomatic backing to counter Russian aggression. This support has been bipartisan, with both Democratic and Republican administrations affirming Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. However, Trump's presidency marked a shift in tone, if not always in policy. Trump has frequently expressed admiration for Russian President Vladimir Putin and has been skeptical of U.S. involvement in foreign conflicts, including Ukraine. His infamous phone call with Zelensky in 2019, which led to his first impeachment, revealed his willingness to leverage U.S. support for Ukraine for personal political gain. This history of transactional diplomacy set the stage for the contentious meeting at the White House. Strategic interests, minerals, energy, and geopolitics. The minerals deal that was supposed to be the centerpiece of the Trump-Zelensky meeting is indicative of the strategic interests at stake. Ukraine is rich in natural resources, including oil, gas, and rare earth minerals, which are critical for modern technology and energy production. Access to these resources would provide the United States with a significant economic and strategic advantage, particularly in reducing dependence on Chinese-controlled supply chains. For Ukraine, the deal represented an opportunity to strengthen ties with the United States and secure much-needed investment in its energy and mining sectors. However, the breakdown of the agreement underscores the fragility of such partnerships in the face of geopolitical tensions. Trump's insistence on linking the deal to Ukraine's approach to peace talks with Russia highlights his transactional view of international relations, where economic and strategic gains are contingent on political concessions. The role of JD Vance in domestic politics. The involvement of U.S. Vice President JD Vance in the meeting adds another layer of complexity. Vance, a prominent figure in the Republican Party and a potential future presidential candidate, has been a vocal critic of U.S. involvement in Ukraine. His intervention during the meeting, urging Zelensky to pursue diplomacy, reflects a growing isolationist sentiment within the Republican Party. This sentiment, championed by Trump and his allies, prioritizes domestic concerns over international commitments and views foreign conflicts as distractions from America's internal challenges. Vance's criticism of Zelensky for being ungrateful and disrespectful also reflects a broader narrative within certain segments of the U.S. political landscape that views foreign aid as a one-sided transaction rather than a strategic investment. This perspective risks undermining the United States' role as a global leader and eroding trust among its allies. Global reactions and the future of alliances. The fallout from the Trump-Zelensky meeting has reverberated across the international community, with reactions highlighting the divergent views on the Ukraine-Russia conflict. Russia's praise for Trump and Vance underscores Moscow's desire to see a weakening of U.S.-Ukraine ties, which would bolster its position in the region. Conversely, European leaders' expressions of support for Zelensky reflect their commitment to countering Russian aggression and maintaining a united front. The meeting also raises questions about the future of NATO and transatlantic alliances. Trump's skepticism of NATO and his willingness to challenge traditional allies have already strained relations with Europe. If the United States continues to pressure Ukraine to make concessions to Russia, it could further alienate European partners who view the conflict as a threat to regional security. Implications for Ukraine's sovereignty and security. For Ukraine, the breakdown of the minerals deal and the public clash with Trump represent a significant setback. The country relies heavily on international support to counter Russian aggression and rebuild its economy. A weakening of U.S. support could embolden Russia and undermine Ukraine's efforts to defend its sovereignty. Zelensky's refusal to compromise with Putin, while principled, places him in a difficult position. Without the backing of the United States, Ukraine may struggle to secure the military and economic aid it needs to sustain its resistance. At the same time, making concessions to Russia could undermine Ukraine's sovereignty and set a dangerous precedent for other nations facing aggression from more powerful neighbors. The path forward, diplomacy or escalation. The Trump-Zelensky meeting highlights the challenges of achieving a peaceful resolution to the Ukraine-Russia conflict. Trump's insistence on a peace deal, even at the cost of Ukrainian concessions, reflects a pragmatic but controversial approach. While ending the conflict is a laudable goal, doing so on terms that undermine Ukraine's sovereignty risks legitimizing Russian aggression and destabilizing the region. Zelensky's stance, on the other hand, reflects the difficult balance between seeking peace and preserving national integrity. His call for no compromises with Putin resonates with many Ukrainians who have endured years of conflict and displacement. However, this position also risks prolonging the war and increasing the human and economic costs. Conclusion: a fragile balance. The clash between Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House is a microcosm of the broader challenges facing U.S.-Ukraine relations and the international response to the Ukraine-Russia conflict. Trump's transactional approach to diplomacy, combined with his skepticism of U.S. involvement in foreign conflicts, has created uncertainty about America's commitment to Ukraine. Zelensky's refusal to compromise with Putin, while principled, risks isolating Ukraine at a critical moment. The path forward will require careful diplomacy, a commitment to international norms, and a recognition of the high stakes for global stability. The United States, as a global leader, must balance its strategic interests with its commitment to supporting democratic nations under threat. Ukraine, for its part, must navigate the delicate balance between seeking peace and preserving its sovereignty. The outcome of this struggle will have far-reaching implications for the future of international relations and the global order.